Welcome back, everybody, to the HeatWave Podcast, part of the Roundtable Sports Network. My name's Anthony Aguirre, Miami Heat and Miami Hurricanes beat writer. So sorry for a delay in uploading, you know, with stuff around this time, whether it's spring practice, the basketball transfer portal, or just or even the NFL draft. You know, it was just a very, very busy time, but we're here now. We're gonna get back to uploading consistently. And soon I have my boy AP. He's been on vacation, enjoying the life. Hey man, God bless you, AP. But just in case, of course, make sure to scan the QR code at the top for all content. We are uploading every single day for free. So please make sure to check that out, as well as the Miami Heat side of it. Again, just scan these QR codes and you'll get to it very, very quickly. We are free. We're absolutely free. So who doesn't like free stuff? We provide everyday coverage for multiple teams, whether it's the NBA, MLB, NFL, college, across all sports, and even soccer. So make sure to download the Roundtable app for free and join your favorite teams. But make sure you join the Miami Heat and Now, on the Miami Heat side, I was present for team president Pat Riley's media session. Now, first of all, I want to give thanks to my boss, my publisher, Shandell Richardson, for again these opportunities to be present with the team at times. Getting to interview players, getting to interview Coach Eric Spoelstra. Those are moments that I'll never take for granted, especially at this point in my sports journalism career. So I want to say thank you, Shandell. Um, but there is one part of it that really stood out to me, really, and that was when the Sun Sentinel Ira Winderman, a legend himself in the business, when he asked Pat about did he believe that this team was a championship caliber team at the trade deadline, and if not, then why not trade two valuable assets, Andrew Wiggins and Norman Powell, when they could potentially walk for free? I'm paraphrasing, of course, what he said, what he asked. And then Riley, he went off on a little rant, but he got to the question and basically said, "Do I believe that we were a championship contender? No, I do not. But we were competitive." I'm paraphrasing what he said as well. And that kind of that bothers me because this organization was built around competing for championships, championship or bust every single year. Now that might sound crazy to some other NBA fans and other NBA franchises, because of course every franchise across all of sports goes through a reset. A period where the team's not doing so good, but hey, you understand it's like a gap year. But no, the Heat don't look for gap years. The Heat look to compete every single year. There's a reason they don't tank. There's a reason they don't really develop that many young players. They always sought out to compete for a championship. Now, of course, this year that was hardly the case. Now, at one point, the Heat were top three in the East. Then they fall all the way to 10th to finish the regular season. And then, of course, you missed the playoffs for the first time since 2019 after losing in the first round of the play-in tournament against the Charlotte Hornets. And granted, the Hornets played their ass off. I mean, credit to them when it's there. They still missed the playoffs. Right now, the Magic got in. But to say that you are not a championship contender, but the reason you were the only team in the Eastern Conference to not make a move was because you were competitive as hell, I think that's straight up ridiculous. If you know that this team is not capable of reaching the standards that you set, that Pat Riley has set since arriving to Miami way back in the 90s, then what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, come on. Heading into this season, the narrative was that the Eastern Conference was weak. Anyone can win the East. At the time, let's make sure we had context. At the time, the Boston Celtics were not viewed as a big threat as they are right now because nobody knew what was Jason Tatum going to do. We knew he wanted to return, but no one knew logistically if it was the right move to return. I've said multiple times on my other show, Section 305, that I do with my great pals, Raul Pagan and Nick DuPont. I've said multiple times I did not believe that Jason Tatum should have returned. And listen, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And then you look at other factors. No one knew Charlotte was going to be what they were going to do. And Toronto, I'll admit they were a big surprise for me. I've never had faith in Toronto. Cleveland, they made the moves at the trade deadline, but even then, they were still a pretty good team, of course. But they're that team, and they still kind of are. Where okay, they're a regular season team that they're going to do good, but we have to see come playoff time if whether or not they're legit. That is the case. The Detroit Pistons, nobody had them being number one in the East. Nobody had them number one in the East. Nobody did. Were they going to be competitive? Of course. But nobody had them number one in the East. Come on, let's be for real. No one had them doing what they did. New York, they were really good throughout the whole year. Atlanta, that was a big surprise one. Atlanta. But yeah, so you look at the East and you could easily be one of the top teams in the East if you had a serious roster. The Heat clearly did not. I mean, that it just rubs me the wrong way that Pat would say that oh, I didn't do anything at the trade deadline because I thought we were competitive and maybe we surprised the league again. Granted, you were able to go on 3 Eastern Conference Finals runs, 2 NBA Finals runs, because you had a guy who could legitimately carry in the highest of moments. You had a guy. You don't have that guy no more. So I don't understand what was it that Pat in the front office, because I know it's not just Pat. There's so many other factors. There's Mickey Arison, Nick Arison, Andy Ellisberg. There's so many guys within that front office who just, of course, are critical when it comes to making these decisions, these trade moves, free agency moves. There's so many factors that come with it. But to say that, yeah, I don't believe that we were a championship contender, but we were competitive, so let's write it out, it's ridiculous, especially when you look at Norman Powell and Andrew Wiggins. Now, it's two different cases. Wiggins has a player option, roughly over $30 million, and he could accept it or he could decline it and enter the open market. Now, the big issue is it'd be a massive gamble because Wiggins, of course, he's a valuable player. Teams want him. The Lakers and the Bucks were the most consistent teams mentioned to have interest in Wiggins. Now, Wiggins with that player option, he might not get a contract worth up to $30 million in the open market. He just might not, because teams might not be willing to overpay, especially with all these first apron, second apron, these taxes. There's so many factors that come with it, and it'd be a big gamble for Wiggins, even though he's a really good player. And then for Powell, he's a straight up free agent, unrestricted. Now the Heat do have his bird rights, so they're allowed to go over the salary cap to re-sign him without any penalties, I'm pretty sure. And Powell mentioned, Pat Riley mentioned that Powell expressed interest in returning, and then there's another separate interview at a Cadillac event in Pembroke Pines of Powell saying that he's interested in returning to Miami. But you can have interest all you want until you put pen to paper. Now, and I wrote about this before, about Powell returning could only be altered if a player like Giannis comes. if a player like Kevin Durant comes, if a player like Donovan Mitchell comes. Those are the only factors I could see that Powell doesn't return. Or, of course, if he believes the Heat are lowballing him and he signs a contract elsewhere and does what he does. It does blow your mind that you could lose these guys for nothing. You could have got something valuable back. You certainly didn't get equal value back in the Terry Rozier lawsuits. So it does suck the fact that you were the only team in the Eastern Conference that did not make a trade, and yet you wanted to ride out this wave. You did. It didn't work out in any way, shape, or form. And listen, hey, we'll see what happens in the lottery. I mean, we've seen teams that should not have won the lottery go out to win it. And we all know what we're talking about. We all know. But for the Heat, and I've mentioned this multiple times in my articles, and I'm going to keep saying it. It's going to sound like a broken record every single time I say it, but this is going to be a pivotal offseason because Bam, here's the thing. For the first time since Bam has been here, he is the guy. Because of course he was here when Dwayne Wade came back. Dwayne Wade was obviously the guy, but the Heat were just not as competitive. You know what I'm saying? Because that team was just it was fun, but it wasn't good enough. And then you go to when Jimmy came. Of course, Jimmy is the guy, even though he is arguably the least selfish superstar in the league to this day. And for Bam, he was still developing. He didn't even have a mid range at that point when Jimmy first came. So there was a lot there. But again, Jimmy was the guy. And then you fast forward to when you trade Jimmy, Tyler Hero is the guy. And most of y'all know how I feel about Tyler Hero. And now the following year, just this past season, Bam is the guy. And of course, he goes out for a crazy season, 83 points against the Washington Wizards. Call it ethics all you want. 83 is still 83, just so y'all know. Still in the history books, no erasing. You have to make the most of what Bam's prime can bring. Now, I've mentioned this before with AP. I know Bam can win you playoff games, but can he lead you through a series? Can he be the best? Can he be the best player of a playoff series and lead the team towards a victory the same way Jimmy did so many different times? Jimmy was the best player undoubtedly in so many of those series that he was in. So can Bam live up to that? Not to the same extent, because of course they're different players, but can he deliver a similar impact? That is a question that we have yet to find out with Bam. But I think, again, given circumstances, he was not given that opportunity just yet, but now he is. So we'll have to prove it, because I know for sure, if Tyler's leading your team, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. That's that. So that quote just stood out with me the most, because man, you could have gotten something that could have helped you out, and you didn't. I mean, hey, Pat Riley said he has no final say, but if that decision was in fact Pat Riley, or if that decision was Nick, I mean, that was terrible. That was terrible. You were not that good in heading into the trade deadline. You needed help. You needed help, and you couldn't get anything done. And granted, trades are hard to make. Trades are hard to complete, regardless of the circumstances. But you saw what other teams were doing, especially in the East. I mean, just look at the Boston Celtics. They got Nikola Vucevic, and that could be a big threat down the line. I mean, oh my gosh. And Cleveland, of course, the Cavaliers, when they got Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis. Again, I raved about that trade too on Section 305, the sports show. That trade, and even though right now the Cavaliers are only up 3-2 on the Toronto Raptors in the first round of the playoffs, still, man, I raved about that depth, and my gosh. And meanwhile, the Heat, it's difficult to be the only team in the Eastern Conference not to make a trade at that point. It is what it is, but massive changes are needed for this roster. Pat Riley knows it. He said it. He understands that changes are needed, and we'll see if he delivers. Now, to end this show, I wanted to do just a fun little segment, grading players and their season. Now, there was a lot of lows, but there were some individual highs. We're going to start off with the 32-year-old veteran Norman Powell, a first-time All-Star. He averaged practically career highs across the board, 21.7 points on 47% shooting, 3.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, shot 38% from behind the arc. Now, the big number that really puts this grade lower is the fact that he only played 58 games. He couldn't even get to 60 or even 65, which is the new minimum for awards, which I agree with. It should not change. I don't care. And Powell, first time All-Star, congratulations to him. But missing so much after the All-Star break, I understand he was battling through injuries. He was battling through illness. I was there at a practice when he first talked to the media after he was sick, and he was still feeling it. He was still feeling it. But hey, man, the least you can do as whether you're a journalist or a fan, the least you can do is applaud players when they want to just beat when they're out there on the court despite not being 100%, because that's rare in today's league. So props to Norman Powell on that. But I have to give his season maybe I'll give it a C plus. Again, missing that many games, and in the games that you did appear in after the All-Star break, you were not performing to what your new standard was. So that really hurts him. I give him a C plus. Powell, again, a free agent this summer, unrestricted. Did he have his bird rights? So we'll see how it goes. But man, 58 games. If he would have played 65, he would have a case to make All NBA third team. He'd have a case. You can't deny he had a case. Now, granted, the team just wasn't there. Like, they weren't succeeding enough to give him a stronger case, but he would at least have a case to consider. So there's that. And again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. This is going to be a pivotal off season because if you don't do anything drastic or at least the right moves to get this team either competitive or bad enough in the lottery, which we know is not going to happen, you're stuck in NBA purgatory. And that is the worst place to be. Everyone talks about it. The worst place to be is in the middle. The Heat have been in the middle for the last 4 years after 4 straight play-in tournament appearances. So the Heat have been there. Now, of course, the Heat run things very differently than the Atlanta Hawks, the Chicago Bulls, the Charlotte Hornets. They do things very, very differently. But if you cannot get out of this pattern, then you fall in the same category as them. And even though Atlanta, I mean, talk about making the right move and paying off, because at first nobody thought that Trae Young in exchange for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, nobody thought that was like a fair trade. Nobody thought that. And yet CJ McCollum has been balling even in these playoffs. I mean, my goodness. And then the Hawks basically escaped NBA purgatory. Now the Bulls, they're in a full reset mode. They're finally getting rid of most of their players. They just let go of Billy Donovan. So they're going into a reset. You see? So while they make their changes, the Heat are just here. We'll stay tuned with the Heat throughout the offseason, throughout these playoffs. But right now, This season was just stressful, but now it's about getting back to contention. It's not going to be easy. It's going to require a lot of difficult decisions. But hey, if there's a man that's going to be able to do that, it's Pat Riley and this front office. My name is Anthony Aguirre, Miami Heat and Miami Hurricanes beat writer for the Roundtable Sports Network. Thank y'all very much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And again, download the Roundtable app for free. Join your favorite teams for everyday coverage. Again, who doesn't love free stuff? All right, thank you very much, and y'all have a blessed one.